Welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe. Today I'm going to talk about a number of things, and I it's very difficult to walk away from the deportation of people to El Salvador, especially since every day there's a new story coming out about people who have been essentially kidnapped and deported to a gulag where they are packed in like sardines in a can, and that there's no due process for any of them. The first one is a gay makeup artist named Andre Jose Hernandez Romero. Was one of the Venezuelans President Trump deported to El Salvador. His offense is that he had the wrong tattoos. Now, imagine I'm gay. So I'm imagining being in this prison where, I've, probably been beaten, or I've probably been accosted by people, or I've probably been intimidated by people, and I don't know why this is happening to me. And the terror that this person is living under now, and whenever he gets out of that hell, and he better get out of that hell, because Donald Trump is claiming that once you send them over to El Salvador without due process from American soil, there's nothing you can do anymore. But these people have been deprived due process while they were on American soil. And that due process needs to be had. We heard the news about these 3 kids who were picked up and sent to El Salvador, who were waiting for their asylum hearings because the dates had been set. And just today, we hear about a deportation error. And get this, the White House and the administration acknowledges that it had a deportation error. The Atlantic reports that the Trump administration acknowledged in a court filing it grabbed a Maryland father with protective status and mistakenly deported him to El Salvador, but said courts lacked jurisdiction to order his return from the mega prison. This person has protected status in the United States. When he is held without due process in a foreign prison because he has been illegally deported to that foreign prison, has not been given due process, that person the courts don't lack jurisdiction over that person, because that person still maintains and has temporary protected legal status. Not temporary, protected legal status. His wife is an American citizen, their child is an American citizen, and he has protected status. So he is under the jurisdiction of the United States, and he is under the jurisdiction of the case that is now on hold because the Supreme Court is sitting on the temporary restraining order. So the Supreme Court needs to rule on whether to keep the temporary restraining order or to lift it. And I hope that the Supreme Court orders that the temporary restraining order remain like the DC Circuit did, so that these people and then Chief Judge Boasberg, can get moving on looking at every one of these cases individually and either providing due process through the internet and then bringing back the people who have been wrongfully deported, that there's been no showing of any criminal charges against them in the United States, that they have legal refugee status or were in line to get legal asylum. And that's just too many people. I've named you, not named you, I've told you about 5 people. And if there are 5 people and we're getting news every day, there's more than 5 people who are wrongfully there, who we still don't know about. And they're being deprived of their due process rights. Even if you say that they were here illegally, in order for you to deport them, you have to provide them due process. That's what it means to be in America. That's what it means to say that the rule of law applies to all. And if they are in America, they're under the jurisdiction of the United States. You can't just forego the constitutional requirement of providing them due process if you detain them. If the government detains them without probable cause, without showing of criminal charges, without due process, then the government can do that with everybody. And then just waive the War Powers of the Alien Enemies Act when we are not at war with anybody. Because that would take an act of Congress. So I'm going to move from this outrageous deprivation of rights that is just confounding to me every single day, and then move to this news that 75% of US scientists who answered a Nature magazine is a publication that is highly regarded as the #1 scientific journal in the United States and perhaps even the world. So US scientists who answered Nature poll consider leaving the United States. More than 1,600 readers answered our poll. Many said that they were looking for jobs in Europe and Canada. Then there's news that China is trying to recruit US government scientists who were fired by Doji. I recently saw this graph that was on Blue Sky, and it showed that how many Nobel laureates are there around the world based on country. And the United States has the most amount. But what we're seeing now is that US scientists are not only aggressively looking for jobs, outside of the United States, that other countries like China are recruiting or trying to recruit American government scientists that Doji fired for their research and development. So what does that do? It creates a brain drain. It's a brain drain out of the United States. In the 70s, the government of the United States decided to bring people in from all over the world with who were the best scientists and the best teachers and the best doctors and the best engineers, so they could build the infrastructure and build America where that stands even to this day. That's why you see so many, Indian doctors, at least back in the 90s. Now their children are either doctors or lawyers. And so you see that created a generation of highly efficient and highly productive citizens who contributed to society and paid their taxes. And what's happening now is that not only are international students around the world being chilled from wanting to come to the United States to study, so they're going to go to Europe and they're going to go to Australia, they're going to go to all other countries, to South Korea, to Ukraine. Some of them will stay in their native countries and try to be more competitive there. But United States will become less important in that academic research and development place, because the brain drain is starting right now. Because people are actively looking for jobs outside the United States, scientists and doctors and people who can find professions of research and development outside the United States in a free society like in Europe, in Australia, in Japan. But they don't consider, they're slowly stopping to consider the United States to be part of that group where you can speak freely and you can learn to be free, which is a bastion of freedom and learning. And Donald Trump is just cutting it off at the legs. And there's this brain drain happening. And all the while you have Elon making absurd statements like he recently did about talking about ending the Federal Reserve. Like, I don't know enough about economics to tell you what that would mean, but I mean, catastrophic would be one way to put it, and then I'll let the economists talk about what it would be. So I'm coming towards the end of the different topics. So there are a few more just quick topics. The Trump administration on Monday placed the staff of the Independent Institute of Museum and Library Services, the largest source of federal funding for museums and libraries, on administrative leave. So, I worked when I was in college at the library. I was in the Library of Social Sciences. I was one of the peons working the desk and then taking the books and all of that. And my library system, my alma mater's library system, is one of the largest in the country. I think at some point it was the largest public university library system in the world. We have the #1 library sciences program at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. And our libraries are kind of like the shining jewel for us. At least it was in college and when I was in university. So to think that now the government is getting ready to stop funding libraries, that'll put huge amount of pressure on these public universities and even on universities like Harvard to maintain their libraries, because Harvard has the largest, I believe, library, second only to the Library of Congress. We don't know how this is going to impact the libraries of the world, of the United States, and of the universities in the United States, because they receive federal funding. And what is that if not, we are just looking at this indiscriminate undercutting and dismantling and sabotaging of America's competitive advantage in academia and in research and development. We're giving away the advantages that we have worked so hard to build for the last 60, 70 years. So, it's really aggravating to me when I see something like this, that he has no reason to go after libraries and museums, but he's going after it, talking about inappropriate ideology to be removed from museums. How do you define that? Inappropriate ideology. That's arbitrary, capricious, overbroad, and vague. That sort of an executive order is not enforceable because it is too broad, it is too vague. It is arbitrary on its face. It's impulsive and capricious. So this falls under one of those executive orders. Doesn't go directly against the Constitution like many of his other executive orders have, which are all going to be in the courts, all the way from birthright citizenship to providing legal status immigrants, asylum seekers with due process. Many cases about the unconstitutional issues, the election executive order. These are all going to go up on appeal, and there are lawsuits happening. And today, on April Fool's Day, I'm talking to you about Liberation Day, which Donald Trump wants to be the big old day where he unveils his tariff panoply of ideas and misideas, where he sort of, throws the world into chaos all over again. Or he says he has come to agreements with different countries and he's avoiding tariffs on certain countries because he's had beautiful conversations with them. And I can see some of that as well. But we have to see what he's doing with the tariffs on China, Canada, and Mexico, because they are our top trade partners. All of the other countries are great, but Europe is big as well. But Canada, Mexico, and China make up for the largest chunk of our trade, and that's where he has focused his ire. We're going to have to see if he does the same thing with Europe or not. And I think Europe is already gearing to move past him. And I think that's a good thing for Europe, to say that we're not going to rely on this buffoonish character who has taken America off the global stage and now has become sort of allied with the enemy, Russia, and the axis of evil, while still at war with Iran, because chaos has to be part of it. And so the last thing, if you are online, and if I hope that Senator Booker is still going, go and listen to his filibuster that is ongoing to stop the Senate's, the GOP majority's movement towards, cutting Medicaid and our earned benefits and moving. So Cory Booker is giving an amazing speech. So now I'm going to say goodbye, and please like and subscribe, and then say please go and listen to Cory Booker. I'll talk to you soon.